As we see more and more young esports pros and players out there rise to the scene, especially when it comes to a scene like Fortnite, the question has now been asked by Bala and others I'm sure as well out there, but he taking to Twitter just last night about this. Are Fortnite pros lazy? You guys can leave your thoughts down below. I certainly will share my thoughts as well. All of this in reference to all of you CSGO fans who know about Thorin during Blast Pro this past weekend. He talks about the Mamba mentality, what it takes to be not only a great esports player, but also a great CSGO player or a pro player in esports in general. What it takes to be the best of the best, to go out and actually get your results and achieve that. I will play you guys that full speech and also link it down below. An amazing speech on what Kobe's mentality was, known as Mamba mentality, and what it takes simply to be great. And then we're also going to apply that to esports and why maybe some Fortnite pros, certainly not all of them, might be lazier as compared to other esports pros.
Wait a minute. I want to say something actually. Like, there we go. Camera on me. So, like I said earlier, I don't want any excuses when it comes to this Liquid versus FaZe match. Like, the loser, like, it didn't matter anyway, who cares? I'll see you in the grand finals. Like, in light of the sports world's recent tragic loss of retired NBA superstar Kobe Bryant, I want to talk a little bit to the esports world, but especially to you CSGO pros about the Mamba mentality, the philosophy that he actually lived his whole life by. Because I'm sick and tired of some of the things, some of the talking points that are coming out of these pro players. Like people saying, oh, well, I won a major, so what is there left for me to accomplish? Think it through. 2 majors, 3 majors. How about being the best you can be? If you could win 5 majors, if you could set the record, go ahead and go for that. That's what the Mamba mentality is about. It's about pursuing greatness. It's about building a legacy for yourself. It's about actually trying to be the best you can be, whatever level you're on. You might not be on the major winning level. Maybe you can get your team to the next level of whatever competition you're playing in. Then there's the whole thing where everyone's got all this money nowadays. Everyone's swagged. Everyone's flashing the cash everywhere. And people think that's an excuse. Like, oh, I'm making my money anyway. I get paid anyway. That's no excuse to be just phoning in your performance. The whole point of that money, as you can see by a guy who got paid, what, $300 million, was still grinding to his very last day, is you're supposed to be the guy out there. Your worldly concerns are taken care of. How about you actually try and develop your game, master your craft, leave a legacy? One day that money will be spent and all that will remain is your legacy and what you actually did and how you lived your life. Then there's the whole angle, like people want to say, oh, but but what about I've got a girlfriend now and I've got a wife and I've got kids, like, it's distractions, or I've got to think about them. How about actually competing for them? How about competing to take what's yours for yours so you can get that money, you can secure that career, they have something to look forward to in their lives. I die for people who are mine. Will you live for yours? That's what I want to say. Mamba mentality, carpe diem.
An important note as well, Bala does clarify in a follow-up tweet, this is not about all pros out there. It's only the ones this can apply to. Those who are tied to an organization or those who are actually financially able to attend events and choose not to, but especially those who are signed to organizations and have the financial feasibility to actually go to events or get invited and turn them down and in fact go to content instead because Fortnite allows for it. So it does beg the question. I'll give you guys my short answer. Are Fortnite pros lazy? No, I think the scene that they actually came up in actually breeds laziness. Now, first of all, before I get into exactly why, I do want to compare it to the likes of Call of Duty, other esports pros out there who have been rising through the amateur ranks and find it extremely difficult there's many stories out there, most recently brought to us by a Hector podcast. I'll also try and link down below for you guys. That being up-and-comer and one of the best pro players in the scene, currently playing for the Chicago Huntsmen, Arcides, alongside his twin brother Preston. They actually talked about their up-and-coming, which matches a lot of the current Call of Duty pros of going to LAN events. Whether you travel across the country or drive several hours to go win $50 and you nearly go broke doing it. Luckily enough, they both got scouted through the amateur scene. They gave it their all and they were at a breaking point of whether or not it came down to one event and playing well, and that's what turned them eventually going pro. They took the risk, as Bala does take it. They took more risks than many other pro players ever will take going forward, because luckily enough, as esports develop, there are more and more ways for younger pros out there to get noticed, to make money, and hopefully rise not only through content, streaming, along many other things, but hopefully a lot of pros going forward will not have to make the sacrifices that the past pros did, because there's simply more money and more eyes in the scene, or at least that's the hope. But when I say that Fortnite breeds laziness, and again, I'm not trying to knock on Fortnite pros, there's a lot of young up-and-comers who likely will transition to future games if they even have to. If Fortnite does stick around, we're going to still have a lot of young up-and-comers making a lot of money from this game, but that's where the problem does lie. I think Bala is trying to get at, but this scene is unlike any other in the way that it actually offers other forms of revenue and income that pros don't have to go to events and actually compete. YouTube, streaming, whether it's on Twitch, some of them on Mixer, alongside many other forms of content that actually bring in revenues for these pros. That's just the beginning. FNCS, Cash Cups, qualifiers for countless events out there that have really, really good prize pools just for online qualifiers that no other scene has. There are many pro players out there, especially 14, 15, 16-year-olds. I guess we reference guys like Sway or Aiden. They've paid off some gigantic amounts of money just from not really competing too much on LAN, but online stuff. And this can be proven time and time again. Sway bought his mom a house. Aiden paid off all of his mom's college tuition bills, and they're not necessarily going to LANs, you know, like CSGO pros are every single weekend. And I'm not blaming the guys; it's great, but let's not try and blame all the pro players. Let's blame the scene because there is so much money and so many other forms of viewership and income for these pro players. How are you going to blame a pro player for not wanting to travel when they simply don't have to? Especially when a guy like Nick Merckx replies, I remember when I first started covering Fortnite around the early months of it, I think it was a Katowice, Poland event. The same event that Symphony chose, I think, not to go to. Nick Merckx did go to, and as he did actually reply to Ball in this tweet, he complained the entire time. It was an awful event, which he had to travel all the way to Poland to, miss several days of streaming, and then the competition, it simply sucked. When he came back, I remember him raging on stream and saying he will never travel to Poland again, and we haven't seen the likes of him or Symphony, I should say more so Symphony or Poach. A lot of pro players out there simply say, hey, I don't really want to compete anymore. And now part of that is, of course, with Epic Games and the way they change up their game competitively. It sometimes can be pretty trashy, but plenty of pro players out there, pro players don't need to attend LANs because Fortnite breeds a scene where you don't need LAN wins to be successful and make tons of money. And that's not to mention the Twitch rivals, the Code Reds, all of the third-party TOs who also do online events. It's crazy to see a lot of streamers out there don't need to leave the confines of their own home to actually make money. And so to answer Bala's question, I would say, I know a bit extensive here and kind of giving you guys a bit of back and forth compared to other esports. I don't blame the Fortnite pros for being more lazy. I do believe that Fortnite pros are maybe, I don't know if lazy is the right word for it, they just don't need to go and compete on LAN like other esports do. If you're an up-and-coming Call of Duty pro, Overwatch pro, CSGO pro, you have to travel to LAN events to get scouted, to get noticed, and to make money. You simply have to. When it comes to Fortnite, you don't, and that's the gigantic difference between these esports. So when it comes time for the question, are Fortnite pros lazy? I don't necessarily agree, but I see the point that Ball is trying to make. It's the scene around Fortnite that makes pros a bit more stagnant, maybe I would say, compared to other esports, and that drive almost ends with having to go to LAN events in Fortnite compared to other games. What do you guys think about this? Until next time, though, my name is Jake, breaking down esports gaming news every single day, all day long. As always, if you guys want a story covered, my DMs are always open. Until next time, take care.